This is a recap for Tuesday, April 20th. What we did today was we watched a little bit more of this Introduction to Percents video, and I'll show you the notes that I took during that. So she talked about how to change a fraction to a percent. And so let's maybe just get the highlighter out here and highlight a few things. So this 100 right here means that we can write 14%. It's really taking place. See how the 14 is no longer the numerator, and we just put that right there. But we don't always have 100 yet. So if we're given, so let me just highlight all these hundreds. So what she did in the video was she just turned everything into hundreds. So if we were given a fraction, let's say that it was only 3/10, then it just needs to be multiplied by 10 so that it becomes 100, and it's an equivalent fraction. So same with 4/5. 4/5 gets multiplied by 20, so the numerator gets multiplied by 20, so that becomes 80, and that 80 is then the percent. The 30 is the percent. So we didn't need to do that on the first one because it was already there. And so this one, again, we have 11/20 gets multiplied by 5 to get the denominator to 100, which then becomes 55, which is 55%. So that was the notes that we took, and then we worked on Cami. So let me pull out finished Cami for you if you're watching this and you're trying to get caught up, or maybe we went a little bit fast. Let me pull the Cami up that we worked on. I'll just pull up period 1, and we'll take a look at how far we got. Here are the Cami assignments. We're on week 25, and I'll just pull up what we did on period 1. So if you want to, excuse me, pause when the words come up if you're trying to type those in. Let me go up to the top. And so our goal is to, let's zoom out just a little bit. The goal is to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents. So to write a percent as a fraction, write the value of the percent in the numerator of the fraction and 100 in the denominator, and write it in simplest form. We really are putting a pause on simplest form. Like, we can work on that later, but we kind of, right now, we're not really doing that in this particular lesson. It's important, but sometimes we can just come back to things. So for example, 75% is 75 over 100, and we can simplify that later. 25% is 25 over 100. To write a percent as a decimal, we go the other direction. Then you write the fraction and then convert it to the decimal. So we can go from fractions to decimals, decimals to percents, percents to decimals. They're all three the same value in a different form. So 25% is 25 over 100, 0.65 or 65 hundredths, then would equal 65%. The one that we did talk about a little bit is because of this decimal right here, then it's really 1 and 44 hundredths, and 1 is 100%. So this is more than 100%. It's 144%. So that's a good thing to know. 7/10 is 70%, and 1/3 is one to memorize because it's 33⅓%, not 33%. So we need that third. So these are some good ones to memorize. A quarter, 25 hundredths, 25%. 1/3, 33 or 0.3 repeating, 33⅓%. 1/2, 5/10, 50%. 2/3, 6 repeating, 0.6 repeating, and they rounded, but you don't really need to. You can just memorize 66 2/3%. 3/4 is 75 hundredths or 75%. These are all really good to memorize because these are practical. They're used out there every day, and we talked about that in class. And then we did a quiz that if you're doing this, you don't really need to do that quiz. That was in class. And so we'll continue tomorrow. And tomorrow what we're going to do is, I'll give you a little preview, is we are going to figure out how to not only change percents to fractions and fractions to percents and decimals to percents and fractions or percents to decimals, but we're going to try to figure out how do we find a percent of something and use a proportion to do that. So that's tomorrow. So that is a recap for Tuesday, April 20th.